The film unfolds in Hwaseong Province, South Korea in October 1986, where the body of a woman is discovered near a field. Local villagers alert the authorities, prompting lead detective Park Do-man to arrive at the scene. Upon inspection, he finds the decomposing corpse inside a sewer and quickly determines that the victim had been assaulted prior to her murder. Following the investigation, Do-man returns to the station and begins questioning multiple suspects. The process is slow and cumbersome, as he relies on a typewriter to document the interrogations. He photographs each suspect, and his colleague, Detective Kwon Kyo-K, organizes the images into a casebook. Do-man believes he can identify the killer through eye contact alone. Soon, news breaks of another woman found murdered in the same area. Do-man rushes to the scene and discovers a footprint that could serve as a vital clue. However, before he can examine it properly, a tractor runs over the evidence, destroying it. With no leads, he returns to the station empty-handed. Months pass, and the case grows cold. Then, Do-man receives a tip from his girlfriend. A mentally challenged boy named Beck had been seen stalking the second victim prior to her death. Seeing this as a breakthrough, Do-man brings Beck in for questioning. Alongside a fellow officer, he violently assaults Beck in an attempt to force a confession. Beck admits only to following the woman, denying any involvement in her murder. In a subsequent scene, a man approaches a woman on a quiet road, asking for directions. She refuses to respond, gripped by fear due to the recent killings. As she tries to flee, she collapses. Do-man arrives and immediately tackles the man, assuming he's the attacker. He later learns the man is Seo Tae-yoon, a detective from Seoul who has volunteered to assist with the investigation. On the way to the station, Do-man revisits the crime scene, creates a footprint using Beck's shoes, and photographs it. Back at the station, he resumes his aggressive interrogation, this time presenting the fabricated footprint photos. Beck continues to deny any connection to the murder. Frustrated, the detectives take Beck to a remote field and threaten to bury him alive. Under pressure, Beck hesitantly describes the crime. The victim was first strangled with her bra, then bound with her stockings. The officers are stunned by the details, as such violent crimes were rare in Korea at the time. When Beck claims he doesn't know more, they beat him severely. The next day, Beck is publicly declared the killer and taken for a crime scene reenactment in front of reporters. Just in time, Tae-yoon intervenes. He examines Beck's hands, which are heavily scarred, and argues that Beck could not have tied the intricate knots used on the victims. The villagers, realizing Beck is being framed, turn on the officers in defense of their friend. Later, Tae-yoon is joined by a new colleague, Shin Dong-chul, who has been assigned to lead the investigation. Dong-chul immediately asks the team whether there are any patterns linking the murders. The officers fall silent, having spent their time pursuing an innocent suspect instead of searching for the real killer. Detective Tae-yoon makes a critical breakthrough. All the murders occurred on rainy days, and each victim was wearing red clothing. When Dong-chul asks whether the victims died in the same manner, Tae-yoon surprises the team by revealing that there were actually 3 victims, one of whom is yet to be found. It turns out that a third woman, also dressed in red, went missing during a recent rainstorm. Soon after, her body is discovered, confirming Tae-yoon's theory. The police officially classify the case as a serial killing due to the consistent pattern. With this in mind, Dong-chul advises the team to prepare for the next rainfall, anticipating that the killer may strike again. One day, while assisting in suppressing a student protest, it begins to rain. The detectives immediately activate their plan. Detective Kyo-K dresses in red and patrols the area where the previous murders occurred, hoping to draw out the killer. Despite hours of waiting, no one appears. The team then heads to a nearby checkpoint, where they encounter 2 schoolgirls. One shares a rumor about a man who hides in public toilets during the day and emerges only at night. The detectives dismiss the story with laughter. Meanwhile, a woman at home receives a phone call urging her to visit someone immediately. Concerned for her safety, she changes out of her red jacket before leaving. As she walks through the fields, humming a tune to calm herself, she hears whistling and freezes. Realizing the danger, she tries to flee, but before she can call for help, a man attacks her. The next day, her body is found. Like the others, she was strangled with her own undergarments. Back at the station, Kyo-K presents a list of songs aired on the radio and notes that the same song played during each murder. She reveals that someone had requested the song specifically on rainy days, which coincided with the murder dates. While Do-man dismisses the connection, Dong-chul and Tae-yoon begin investigating. Tae-yoon visits the radio station in search of the original postcard request but learns it has already been discarded. Meanwhile, Do-man and Yoon-ho return to the crime scene and place a talisman, believing the killer's face will appear once it dries. Suddenly, They hear footsteps and hide in the bushes. Tae-yoon arrives separately and hides nearby as well. A man soon appears and begins pleasuring himself with women's lingerie. Disgusted, the detectives prepare to intervene, but Yoon-ho accidentally makes a noise, alerting the man. After a brief chase, they apprehend him near a construction site. During interrogation, the man insists he's not a murderer, claiming his actions stem from a disturbing personal fetish. Further investigation reveals he's a responsible family man. When villagers learn of his arrest, they protest, frustrated by ongoing police brutality and discrimination. With the case stalling, Tae-yoon revisits the schoolgirls who mention the toilet rumor. He investigates the location and finds a woman inside. Initially hesitant, she agrees to help after learning he's a detective. She leads him to a nearby house, home to a traumatized woman who survived a similar attack. From her account, Tae-yoon learns the attacker had notably soft hands. Back at the station, Tae-yoon examines the hands of the previously arrested man and confirms they don't match the description. He releases him, much to Do-man's frustration. Just then, Hwaseong turns on the radio and hears the familiar song. It's raining again. Realizing another murder may be imminent, she rushes to the radio station to retrieve the postcard. Unfortunately, within the hour, another victim is found, this time with a small piece of peach lodged in her body. Hwaseong finally locates the postcard and identifies the sender, Hyun-gyu, a factory worker. The team takes him into custody, and Tae-yoon immediately checks his hands. They are soft, matching the survivor's description. During questioning, the detectives note that the murders began shortly after Hyun-gyu moved to the area. He admits to sending the song requests but denies any involvement in the killings, refusing to confess to crimes he claims he didn't commit. The detectives grow frustrated, but due to public scrutiny, they cannot act aggressively. When confronted about the peach, Hyun-gyu becomes visibly uncomfortable and lashes out. Yoon-ho, convinced of his guilt, loses control and beats him severely, leading to his removal from the case. With the investigation back at square one, the team revisits earlier leads. Upon reviewing Baek's confession, they realize he described the events as a witness, not a perpetrator. They visit Baek's family restaurant, where they find a drunken Yoon-ho causing a scene. Suddenly, Baek arrives and strikes Yoon-ho with a wooden board, embedding a rusty nail in his leg. Panicked, Baek flees and inadvertently ends up at the site of the first murder. Do-man and Tae-yoon arrive shortly after and resume pressuring him for information. Eventually, Baek admits he saw the killer's face 3 times. Believing they're close to solving the case, they show him Hyun-gyu's photo, but Baek begins rambling about a house fire instead. At that moment, an angry mob of villagers approaches, intent on confronting the detectives. Terrified, Baek runs aimlessly through the chaos. As the investigation intensifies, tragedy strikes. Baek, overwhelmed and disoriented, fails to notice an oncoming train and is fatally hit, dying instantly. The following day, the police station is flooded with calls. One comes from the forensics lab, reporting the discovery of a semen sample at the crime scene. However, due to technological limitations in South Korea at the time, the sample must be sent to the United States for analysis, delaying any immediate breakthroughs. Meanwhile, Do-man receives devastating news from the hospital. Yoon-ho's leg must be amputated due to a severe tetanus infection caused by the rusty nail injury. Elsewhere, a woman cautiously makes her way to work, visibly affected by the recent string of murders. A schoolgirl passes her, and despite the tension in the air, the two do not interact. Moments later, a man approaches the schoolgirl from behind, abducts her, and subjects her to unspeakable violence before killing her. The next day, Tae-yoon arrives at the crime scene, now swarming with reporters. The victim is confirmed to be the same girl who had previously directed him to the woman in the public toilet. Devastated by his inability to protect her, Tae-yoon confronts Hyun-gyu in a fit of rage, physically assaulting him and even drawing his gun, prepared to execute him. Just in time, Do-man arrives with the DNA results from the semen sample. The analysis confirms that Hyun-gyu is not the killer. Once again, the detectives are left without a suspect, and the case is officially closed a few days later. The film then jumps forward to 2003. Do-man, now retired from law enforcement and living a peaceful life as a businessman, is seen having breakfast with his family. One day, he revisits the original crime scene, the location where the first victim was found. As he gazes into the drain, reflecting on the past, a young girl approaches and casually mentions that another man had recently been there, inspecting the same spot. The film ends with Do-man staring into the camera, shaken by the realization that the killer may still be alive and nearby. Memories of Murder is based on the true story of South Korea's first documented serial killer. Between 1986 and 1991, 15 women were murdered, and the case remained unsolved for over 30 years. When the film was released in 2003, the identity of the killer was still unknown. However, in 2020, advancements in forensic science led to the identification of Lee Chun-jae, who is now serving a life sentence. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more of these recaps. Have a great day.